What's up guys, welcome back to yet another video. This time we'll be analyzing my round of 16 match against Skillus in the Wardy TV Winter Invitational. If you'd like to see how I got this far in the tournament, make sure to check out my previous highlight video. Otherwise, sit tight and prepare your... So here we are loading up into Neo-Humanity against Skillus. Normally, I would say this is a pretty 50-50 map in TVP, but chances are if you're a more aggressive Terran, then you probably struggle with keeping up aggression against a Protoss. This usually happens because there's a few less avenues to attack, especially if they break the collapsible rocks in the middle of the map. But in general, I just feel like it's an easier map for the Protoss to defend. There's also a lot less dead space behind the main. I don't think there's actually a single spot behind the main or behind the natural that you can park air units in without getting shot at by stalkers. So in general, just a more difficult map to drop. I remember loading into this series, I actually felt a little bit of an underdog against Skillus. In terms of skill level, I would say we're pretty similar. But he has been practicing pretty hard and he has prepared some pretty amazing builds in TVP recently. So I wasn't feeling too confident in this case, which is why I decided to try for more alternative build orders against him. So far, normally I would play two gas against a Protoss that I'm really confident in and just get a couple of Reapers and a Hellion really fast. With a bit of later expansion. But against Skillus, I feel like I need all the economy I can get because he really is just a macro monster of a Protoss. So in this case, just going for a pretty standard Marine expand. The reason why I don't go Reaper here is because Reaper actually leaves you a bit vulnerable to Adepts. So if he goes for a really fast Adept rush, then it's just you won't have any Marines to hold it, and it might be really difficult. Everything can fall apart really fast, especially in this case where I'm playing no scout. I have no idea what's on the other side of the map, so I decide to at least go for a Marine into Reactor. Now normally you might see some Terrans go Factory before they start the Reactor on the barracks, just to get that extra fast Hellion or Widowmine drop. But in this case, like I said, I want to play a bit safe against Adepts, so instead I go for the Reactor before the Factory. This is the fastest possible bunker you can make after you get your second and third Marine and your second gas out. So in general, pretty safe. This is especially key if he's playing like a gateway in the natural with the Adept chronoed out. And here you might see I actually try like I said, something a bit more alternative. This is not something I normally practice. It's a bit more improvised, but I go double Reaper on my barracks and a Hellion on the Factory, which should pair up for a pretty hefty counterattack if he's caught off guard. Now I'm kind of hoping that the Hellion can sneak past his Adept without him seeing it, which is of course a tall order. You can do that with Reapers, but unlikely with the Hellion. And let's see. Yeah, the Adept is covering the entrance, so I'll just say, okay, fudge it. I'll just try to get past without getting hit. The issue about doing this on this map is that he can wall off his main, or where the Reaper Cliff is, with just a single building. And I know for a fact that he has, which is the reason I decide to go through the natural instead. I just know that he walled off the cliff. And this actually ends up pretty disastrous. I mean, I almost got an extra shot there with the Hellion that would have killed 2 probes. But instead, I ended up killing 0 probes, losing all of my units. And the only thing I have to show for it is losing, spending some of his mining time. I was even a bit ambitious here with the Widowmine, trying to burrow it in the Phoenix path. But it didn't get there in time. You can see by my reaction, I'm even a little bit frustrated by this. Pretty rough start overall. And the reason I go for a fast 3cc here is because I saw he went Stargate Phoenix. So It's in general the safest build there is against a build that doesn't involve like a fast stim pack. So there's no way I'm gonna be able to punish him anytime soon. So I'm just really trying to play the long game here, getting that extra 3rd CC. And now I'm just basically trying to turtle up, making sure I take the least amount of damage possible from the Phoenixes. I even put some Marines in my natural. And this was actually a really bad mistake. Once again, you can see by my reaction how flustered I get. Simply because I wasn't supposed to rally that Cyclone out. So really a rough start. I mean, I probably lost like what, 600-700 resources against 0. So far it's been a perfect game for him. I think he lost a single probe, that's it. The scouting probe. But yeah, just trying to keep my head in the game and macro up. So far I haven't made any macro mistakes, which is actually pretty important if you're trying to come back. And yeah, my barracks feel at like they're being done at a comfortable time. I even went for a Raven, which normally is not really good against Phoenixes because Phoenixes delete Ravens so fast. But I feel like if I can protect that Raven and get a push across the map, if he decides to play your Robo follow-up, which he normally does, then I'm thinking I can actually Matrix his Colossus and get some pretty hefty damage in. But this is all assuming he doesn't make too many Phoenixes. Which so far I've only seen 3, so I'm pretty confident there's not that many Phoenixes, which is why I'm a little bit reckless with the Raven. Now I see 5, which is a little bit scary. One mistake that I'm doing here, which is pretty reckless, is I'm leaving the Raven hotkey together with my army. And that can very easily end up costing me the Raven, right? Like it needs to be maybe hidden behind my main or just set to follow my army so that it doesn't fly ahead like it's doing now. Like, yeah, just like that I donated a Raven, which definitely should not have happened. I killed 1 Phoenix for it, which is okay, but absolutely not worth it. So even more of an abysmal early game for me. Really quite brutal. On the bright side though, like my upgrades are pretty good, right? I'm finishing +1 attack, which is pretty important. And then I think I also have an armory on the way and a second eBay should be following suit soon. I'm like, okay, he's taking a 4th base. Maybe I have a chance to take some map control, maybe try to get these watchtowers. I'm pretty sure that he had those watchtowers, so I just want to make sure that he doesn't have them. I saw the zealots run away, so I'm going to plant a Widow Mine before it comes back. But in general, because of my early game, I'm pretty confident that I cannot do any damage to him, right? If I push across the map, he'll completely crush my push. So just trying to play the long game here, sorry. And get some map control, force some APM out of him to try and take these back. So, yeah. I was pretty much sure that he already had that 3rd base because when I scanned his 4th base, that was basically the timing of a 4th base. I'm like, okay, that's his 4th. And the reason I scanned the 3rd is because I wanted to see his gas count, first of all, so that he's not like massing charge lots or something like that. And I also wanted to check if he had any static defense in case I wanted to drop later on. Now this push kind of catches me off guard. I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't expecting him to push while also getting his 4th base behind it. And my number 1 mistake was hesitating here. You can see like I kind of went back. I respected his army a bit too much. It was really small, which gave him time to warp in 8 zealots and also forced me to stem a 2nd time before the fight. And now I basically have to spend all of my SCVs at the 3rd for a chance at surviving. So really rough start here. I do manage to clear his anti-air, which means the Vikings can reign supreme in the sky. Even his War Prism took a hit from the Widow Mine, so I can kill it before it warps in Stalkers. So this is the only reason why I'm still alive. So there's still hope. I'm thinking there's still hope. It's not looking great, of course. He is on four bases, probably the fourth base is already starting to saturate, if not already saturated. But I do have a decent SCV count still. As you can see, I'm transferring some SCVs to my third, and I'm not producing any more SCVs. This is actually really important. If you get pushed into a position like this, where you know the guy just has all the eco in the world, and there's no way you're going to catch up, right? So you don't want to make any more SCVs. You want to mass meals and just focus on producing from your barracks. If you can produce from your factories and your starports, great. If not, just produce from your barracks, because these are the units that will allow you to come back into the game. So I am dealing with these Zealot run-bys pretty well, which is actually really important because he has so much more eco than me. That means I have to take cost-efficient trades all the time, right? I think right now, I feel like I took enough trades that I can probably start thinking about getting my economy back on track. I'm still playing very much from behind, but I have been producing from my barracks non-stop, which means our armies should still match. I'm confident that I can still win fights. This is actually a nice catch for me. I do damage some of his zealots a little bit, and I prevent the rocks from being broken for a little bit longer, which gives me time to maybe try and run past his army. Here I was a little bit indecisive. I mean, I wanted to take the fight, and I didn't want to go for a base trade, but then I decided, okay, if he doesn't want to take a fight, there's no way I can force it. But here, I actually got pretty lucky because he did decide to take a fight after all, which is exactly what I needed, right? I wanted to take a fight before his economy really started to kick in, and his extra gateways finishes and he gets all that eco. That was a good catch on the Colossus. I think he's down to 1 now, so I feel pretty confident to stop producing Vikings, I believe. And this is the point where you can go back to making medevacs, or if you have too many medevacs already, just go into something else, extra barracks, or maybe make some libs out of your starport. But all in all, I have a lot of medevacs, which actually feels really nice in situations like these where you're trying to catch the guy off guard, so you're going to be stimming a lot. I do catch him off guard here, which is really good to prevent his 5th base, but on the other hand, I also get a run-by at my 3rd, which is going to deny a lot of mining time, and it's going to deny my 4th base for quite a long time. So that does, I think it does end up in a net positive for him in general, especially because he saved a lot of those zealots. One of the most important things as a Terran is to attack and defend at the same time in these situations. Because if you're just always defending, you're giving the guy way too much freedom to tech up and get all the units that he wants and all the bases he wants. So that's why I'm making sure I have an army out on the map, and I'm just trying to defend with reinforcements. Now that I took a relatively decent trade against him, I can rally together with my reinforcements and maybe try to take another good fight. I am running a bit low on ghosts, and I did miss an EMP on the stalkers, which was a bit unfortunate, but this was actually a huge mistake by him, sending in all of his adepts forward like that, or sorry, all of his disruptors forward like that means I can actually take this fight. He has no more Novas left, so I'm just basically stutter stepping forward, and this was like a crucial mistake by him. He basically threw the game here. I don't think even an overcharge can save him. The splits were pretty decent in this case. But yeah, I think now he just can't recover. He doesn't have enough gateways to recover from this, so it was a really good comeback by me, I feel like. And it was mostly because we played really patient, right? I didn't try to force any terrible fights. I just stayed in there and tried to play from behind and tried to catch him off guards whenever possible. But yeah, let's check out the second game. As we load up here into game number 2 of the series, I'm up 1-0. I forgot to say this is a best of 3, of course. So if I win this game, the series is over. So I'm coming into this feeling pretty confident because it is Royal Blood. This was my map pick, And in general, it's pretty Terran favored, I would say, simply because of the really short rush distance. So it gives Protoss players a lot less time to react to your builds. So if you're playing some kind of rush build, or like even if he spots your Hellions coming cross map, he's gonna have a very little time to react to it. So in general, it's quite good for Terran. Here, in this case, he opts to go for the Hero Scout. He does get a lot of damage down on my SCV. And normally I don't do this, but I am playing relatively safe now because this is my map. So I just decide to spend some money and repair that SCV. Alternatively, you can also just bring another SCV from your mineral line. But with the travel distance and all that stuff, it does end up being relatively similar in terms of minerals lost. But at this point, there's not much else to do. You just want to make sure you're following the probe around with an SCV so he can't harass your building SCV. At some point, you are going to have to pull your SCV back because probes regenerate shields. So they're going to hit your SCV and run away until they regenerate. So you do have to make sure to pay attention to the scouting probe so you don't lose any SCVs. But yeah, going into this game, as you can see here, I was also hiding the Marine. I wanted him to think that I was playing Reaper. That's the trick Protoss uses. Protoss use to check if there's a Marine or a Reaper, because Reapers take almost twice as long to build as a Marine. So they know if it's a Reaper, they're safe to run away, and if it's a Marine, they can just right-click back if it starts shooting. But going back to what I was saying, here, because it's Royal Blood, I decide to go for a build that I don't normally use, which is the 3 racks. If you've been playing this game since Wings of Liberty, chances are you've seen this build time and time again. It is one of the most tried and tested builds of Terran throughout the history. And you either do it with a reactor first, or a Marine first, like I did, or even a Reaper. But in this case, I do go for a Marine first because his probe was there, and I didn't want to go for Reaper because, like I said, I was scared of the really fast adept that could come in and stop my CC from building. So in here, the only big thing to note is that I'm going to want to set my 2 extra barracks to rally into the main. And the reason you want to do that is because you don't want the Protoss to know that you're going for this build. So it's really quite simple. Raise your wall whenever the adept shades in. Keep your Marines at the front to prevent any kind of poke. And in general, just rally the rest of your barracks into the main so that you're not revealing your hand. What's really safe for you to do on this map is to leave 4 Marines in your main in case an Oracle shows up. 4 Marines is enough for to defend against an Oracle. So that's just something I'm going to opt to do. And that's actually what ends up biting me in the ass. You can see here by my reaction, I'm a bit frustrated by this because I was sending 5 Marines to my main to defend against the Oracle, which is exactly when the shade came in, and then I couldn't lift my depot. So with that, he actually got the scout off on my build. I'm not too happy about this because if he scouts this build, he can spam a bunch of shield batteries in front of his natural and just defend it quite comfortably. So I'm really not happy, but I know that there's nothing else I can do. Like there's no deviation. All I can do is wait for my stim. I click my stim. I click my tech labs to check the research time, and I'm like, okay, it's go time. And just for future reference, just for future reference, you want to go when your stim pack is around 70 seconds in, as that leaves you 30 seconds to walk across the map and stim when you get to his base. Here he actually ends up, I could tell that he wasn't playing his best this day because he already lost 3 Stalkers poking, which is a super crucial mistake that does allow me to have a much bigger army advantage than I normally should have. Here you can see he already has 2 batteries and Immortal, but because he lost 3 Stalkers, that actually means I can stim forward and just target all of his units, kill the battery that's overcharged. And at this point, I know I've won the game, so I'm feeling quite happy as I do start to rally my units. Behind this, of course, you still want to be macroing, just in case an Immortal pops out and another Warpin comes in and somehow he defends. But in general, I'm feeling quite happy. In this case, you probably want to start your factory like I do, maybe even an extra gas. But in general, yeah, there's no way he can come back from this. I depower all of his I depower his robo, his battery, his gateway. There's really no way he can come back into this without those buildings. So I snag a win that really, it felt like I shouldn't have, right? With that scout and then his start in the first game, it was really an underdog win. But good stuff, good stuff. Well, that was it for the video, guys. I did end up advancing to the next round, but I lost pretty convincingly to Cure. I didn't really play that well, so I don't think I'll show those games on my YouTube channel. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe and stick around for more analysis videos. If you do want to see a different type of video, let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, yeah, just stay around and check them out. Bye-bye.